Welcome to the Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every week from TheRinger.com is Dave Jacoby. Jacoby!
What's happening, Verno? We had the Knicks and Grizzlies on Friday night, the Mismatch Bowl, and somehow things have gotten worse for the Grizzlies since then.
I mean, it's been a tough go. I was out late, driving home in complete silence from the arena last night as I watched a third straight game that Memphis has lost. So many times over the years, I have said, hey, you go to an NBA arena, there's a really good chance you're going to see something you've never seen before. That's one of the things that I love about going to games on a regular basis is that there's many times when I leave the arena and I could say, man, I've never seen anything like that before, or I've never seen that particular play happen, or I've never seen something like that happen. Well, the Memphis Grizzlies have lost 3 straight games by 2 or less points via an opponent's winning shot within the final 3 seconds of the game. I literally saw history, Jacoby. It's the first time an NBA team has experienced such a streak since the Seattle Supersonics in 2002.
Wow.
They're not even a franchise.
Well, it's because those games are sort of a coin flip. It's hard. The statistics will tell you there's about a 12.5% chance of that happening. That's my math.
Oh, no. Way lower percentage.
No, I'm a coin flip 3 times in a row.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
50%,
well,
half of that is
I don't know if
half
it's
of that is
necessarily coin
12.5.
flip, but I mean, look, the Knicks one was an OG Anunoby game winner. It is 100% my fault that De'Aaron Fox hit a game winner on Saturday night.
100% your fault. You knew it.
I mean, look,
you did that.
I prepared everybody for that, though, on Friday.
It's fair. You called your shot. You couldn't call the De'Aaron Fox shot.
I said, I'm scared to do this, but what the heck has happened to De'Aaron Fox? He had those 2 miserable games against the Pelicans, and then he backed that up with a 7-point game against the Rockets. And I'll be honest, he didn't even care about the Grizzly game until the very end. Until the very end.
As I said, I bet on him to score 20 points. And I was not asking for much from De'Aaron Fox. 20 points. And I was sweating it. And he got to 19 and 20 as the buzzer sounded. But before we do move on to another debacle from last night, I do want to say, yeah, it was an OG Anunoby shot that beat the Grizzlies, but it was Jalen Brunson in the fourth quarter that beat the Grizzlies. And Jalen Brunson created that shot by drawing so much attention that OG was open.
And it was also the worst night of 3-point shooting that could ever be imagined, with 4 for 31 for the Grizzlies on the night. Could not get a 3 to 4. I mean, 13% for the night. And Ja Morant obviously missed a game winner at the very end of the game. But then it moved on, and then Saturday they ended up losing to San Antonio, and then last night lost to the Atlanta Hawks. This has obviously changed the standings a great deal as Memphis has moved down in the standings. And now, huge showdown on a game they moved to ESPN on Wednesday night between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And there was extreme depression that went across the arena last night as 1 minute into the game, Jaren Jackson Jr. landed on a foot and went out, hobbling, went all the way back to the locker room. Now, that is the moment. There is nothing more stressful than waiting for PR to put out what has happened. And all I'm sitting there saying is, please don't be foot. Please don't be foot. Please don't be foot, right? Especially because he's had an unbelievable season. He's at like 59 games. Obviously, you have to get to 65 to be eligible for awards. And so it's like, if this is a foot injury and it's going to take him out for the rest of the season, this is just a tragedy. It comes back and they say ankle, which is a sigh of relief. What's not a sigh of relief is he never came back out to the bench, which gives you cause for pause. Obviously, it really messes up what was going to be an unbelievable Wednesday night showdown between Memphis and Oklahoma City, because in the absence of Jaren Jackson Jr., Memphis's defense has been atrocious anyways, much less playing a team like that without this guy who is honestly what makes the whole thing go and has been the standby for the entire season. So hopefully the news on Jaren Jackson Jr. is not so bad, but absolutely brutal. And then at the end of the game, there's been a lot of talk this year about the defensive prowess of Dyson Daniels. Desmond Bane tries to take Dyson Daniels off the dribble. He gets a steal.
Whoopsie.
Throws it ahead to Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert finishes it at the buzzer. And just mass depression. I mean, it was
tough.
Just,
it was a tough
it was
finish
a sad,
for LeVert, too.
It was so sad walking out of that arena.
Well,
I mean, you have no idea. I mean, because it's the culmination of it's 3 home games in a row losing at the buzzer. It's different if that crap happens on the road. You know what I mean? But having it happen at home is just traumatic.
And to the fans that go to every game, like that's got to be so depressing. And if you didn't see the game last night, it's a tie game, 130-130. LeVert, who was scorching hot, misses a 3. Yep. So it's Grizzlies ball with like 9 seconds left or something. Like you just like the chances of things going as bad as they did are so low. Like literally the only thing you can't do is turn the ball over and give up a transition layup. Like it's like you could do anything else. You could punt the ball into the air, probably be a kick. You could throw the ball into the air and just let time run out. Just straight up in the air next to the Jumbotron and let time run out and you're fine.
When you're at that point in a tie game, this is and again, maybe my fault. I turned to the guy next to me and I was like, "Oh, please no overtime." That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
So you're responsible for the Sacramento loss and you're responsible for the Atlanta loss. That's not what I meant. Wow, Verno, you should not have admitted that.
No,
you should not have admitted
fair.
that. You are responsible for the last 2 losses.
No. What I meant was make a game winner.
They did.
Not them.
There was a game winner.
There was a game winner. I really did. I said that. I said, please no overtime. Just make this, Bane. Not only did Bane not make it, Dyson Daniels steals the ball, and then it goes the other way. I mean, honestly, it's impossible to lose like that. Seriously. It should be impossible.
It was a great finish from LeVert. It was just a really nice little, like, slow Euro to get a sliver of space to score. And then you're waiting, like, maybe it was a little late. It was not late. The ball was up and on the backboard when it turned red.
So now you have this mass depression walking out of the arena, right? I've got to do the post-game show for a 3rd straight time after this happens. Jaren Jackson Jr. is hurt. We don't know the severity of that. Meanwhile, I'm looking down my phone. The good news is SGA and the Thunder look terrible going into this Memphis game because he only had 51.
51.
Oh, my God. Like, bro, if Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't play, we might give up 170.
Two SGA. Not just to Thunder. two SGA.
I mean, look, hey, by the way,
anyone is in jeopardy.
By the way, for all you Thunder fans out there, my Twitter account is deactivated on Wednesday. So you go ahead and send your tweet into space.
But quick before we get to to Thunder and SGA's performance last night and his season, what is wrong with Ja and why isn't he playing?
Shoulder soreness. So earlier in the year, I don't know what happened in the New York game, but he, early in the season, he had shoulder took him out last year and he missed the season because of the shoulder after he had come back via suspension. And then this year ran into Daniel Tice on a screen earlier in the year, and it took a huge chunk of the season out. And so now it obviously does give you, reason for worry because had a day off with the San Antonio game, like did not play in the San Antonio game on the back-to-back after New York, and then missed yesterday's game as well, and it is listed as the shoulder. And so obviously the concern is, did this shoulder just never get right? Because, did you just try to battle through it and play with it? And why is this lingering in the way that it is? But obviously, I mean, he had hurt the shoulder last year. He had hurt, a shoulder this year, and now sat out the last 2 games with shoulder soreness after playing 5 games in a row and starting to look like the old Ja Morant. Like he had started to come into his own, and which is desperately what they needed for the last home stretch of this season. And then that was stripped away. And so here's hoping he's able to play on Wednesday night against Oklahoma City, but that's what they're saying.
Verno, before we move on to SGA's big night and the Thunder, I just have one simple question for you. With Ja's shoulder, with Jaren's ankle, is there a part of you that says we could be in the play-in?
I haven't.
Not that far away right now.
Yeah, I haven't considered the play-in.
5 away in the loss column.
Yeah.
About 20 games left to play.
I mean, that's a cratering. You know what I mean?
Without Jaren and Ja.
I mean, they get Morant back, and I think they can win their share of games to stave that off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've kind of looked at the floor being 6.
6 is tough too, though. You want to be in 4 or 5 if you're in the Western Conference. 6
absolutely. I mean, honestly, if they could freeze the standings right now,
please.
There's not a Memphis fan in the world that wouldn't take that. Honestly,
of course.
You would take your chance. You would take your chances against Houston, and then you would take your chances against Oklahoma City, because at least those 2 teams don't have 250,000 games of playoff experience combined, which is what is true of virtually the rest of the conference, whether it's the Clippers, whether it's the Warriors, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's the Nuggets.
One series. If you're the Memphis Grizzlies right now, let's go 1 series at a time. And that would be
understood. But I'm saying
that would be a welcome first round matchup, considering the alternatives, which are really, really nasty. And
correct.
I think the matchup you have next is Wednesday, which we should pivot from the Grizzlies to the 51-point game from SGA. And
unbelievable.
I can go negative sometimes. I'm going to say this. I was watching this one. This was closer than it should have been. The Rockets didn't play anybody. So if you just see SGA scores 51 against the Rockets, you're thinking that he's like going up against Thompson and Eason. Right. And, but they didn't have Thompson. They didn't have Eason. They didn't have Sengun. They didn't have Brett VanVleet. They were missing somebody else I even can't mention at the moment because I forgot. But they weren't playing anybody. I think they started Jock Londale and Widmore. You know what I mean? So and the game was like, I was expecting SGA to not score that many points because I was also expecting them to be up by 20 in the fourth quarter. But it was like an 8-point game at one point with like 3 minutes left.
Did you see that stat yesterday that was going around that SGA would be one of the top 5 or 10 scorers in the NBA if he never played a fourth quarter? I was like, what the hell?
No, I saw the one that said I saw the one that says he leads the league in 20-point games, 30-point games, 40-point games, and 50-point games. And I was like, I'm not going to say that on the pod because I'm too lazy to research it, but that can't be true. It just can't be true. It can't be true.
It said he averages, I think the number was 27 in 3 quarters. I was like, what the hell? If he didn't play the fourth quarter, which he rarely, I mean, in many cases he does not.
Mm-hmm.
Also, from what I gather, obviously I was at Grizzlies Hawks. First big Reed Shepherd moment 60 games into the season.
It wasn't a moment. It was moments. He started. Again, that's where they are.
Right.
Like one of their G League guys started. He started the game. He had 25. He made some mistakes, but he showed real flashes to the point where you're kind of like, how come it took this long for him to kind of like get some burn? Like he hit a couple threes in a row. He was getting to the basket. Like I think people look at him like he's like a Steve Novak knockdown shooter type, but he can play. He can go to the rim, and he was getting a lot of opportunity yesterday. It was a great Reed Shepherd game. But again, I do want to say that was not a 51-point game from SGA. That was a 49-point game from SGA, because sometimes I like to get on my FanDuel, and I might have put like $10 on him scoring less than 50 points. I think the over-under was like 50.5. And I forget who it was, but
you took under 50?
Yeah, it was late. It was in live, right? But the Rockets, I forget who it was for the Rockets. It was somebody. They drove and dunked. And SGA put the ball back in when he missed the dunk while he was hanging on the rim. That is not legal. And if you stand to lose $20, you're sitting there screaming at the television like, what are you talking about? You can't score while your teammate is hanging on the rim. It was like the refs just wanted him to get 51. So if you didn't see this game, that was not the Rockets that he scored 51 against, and he didn't really score 51. So that's me, David Jacoby, being negative about a 51-point game from SGA. And I don't know what he's going to do on Wednesday. What do you expect? Who's going to – what do you got? Wells is going to pick him up?
Can we just not talk about it?
No, we can.
No.
Because those are the two biggest stories. The two biggest stories
I know,
are the
but
Thunder
I'd rather
and the Grizzlies.
not. I mean, you got one team. I mean, look. In the absence of Jaren Jackson Jr., I was very hopeful if you get, especially with the way they gave they didn't have their guys for the last two and took terrible losses. But if you assume they got their guys back, they did have a home run effort against the Knicks. Like, they played a 1-point game against the Knicks, and they went 4 for 31 from 3, right? They showed, here's a good team coming into your arena. It went down to the last shot, right? And so the hope was, hey, you've got your guys. You can play against Oklahoma City. Everybody knows how big of a game that is. Everybody knows. My hopes for what got dashed, the second Jaren Jackson Jr. Was
wasn't it in the first 2 minutes?
It was the minute. It was a minute and a half into the game, and as soon as he went hobbling back to the locker room, my immediate reaction was, oh my God, I hope it's not his foot. My second reaction was, well, that ruins Wednesday. Yeah. You know? But again, look, here's what we know. And Lord knows I should understand it better than everybody. In the NBA, you literally never know.
Never know.
We are shocked by outcomes every single night. So maybe even in the absence of Jaren Jackson Jr., they could have some kind of home run effort. And
the Rockets, it wasn't like a tie game in the last minute last night, but the Rockets, they hit a couple threes to bring it to win 8 or 7 or whatever it was. And again, this is a depleted Rockets team, so there's no chance. Oh no, there's no chance the Grizzlies win on Wednesday. But here's the game I'm going to tonight, which suddenly becomes very important for you. You're a Knicks fan now.
Well, hold on. I'm just gonna amend a statement that I made earlier. Gilgeous-Alexander, I went and looked it up, is averaging 27.4 points through 3 quarters this season.
So what's he averaging a game? 31, 32?
If he did not play in fourth quarters, he would still be 4th in the NBA in scoring.
God, I mean, that because he's averaging 31, 32. So he scores like 4 points a game in the fourth. That's how little he plays in the fourth.
He would be in the top 5 in scoring, playing 3 quarters. That is outrageous.
Well,
that's outrageous.
One of my buddies, shout out to Francois, he's a Mismatch listener. He's out of town, which means one of his seats is available for tonight's game. So I'm going to the Warriors-Knicks tonight. And all of a sudden, you're a Knicks fan tonight. Because you're going to have to root against the Warriors as much as you don't want to. Like, Steph Curry's going to be on fire. And I know you love basketball. You're going to love it so much. But somewhere deep in your brain, you'd be like, this is not good for my Grizzlies.
Well, he may not be able to play.
Because he was limping? So I saw he finished the game, though, right? I was watching the game yesterday. I mean, first of all, I don't pay attention to Hornets games. I'm not going to watch the Hornets Warriors. For me, that's a foregone conclusion.
But it seems like it's up in the air whether or not he.
That's fair. I think that's fair. On a back-to-back on the road, right? I think that we might not see Steph Curry, and that really bums me out because that's kind of why you buy tickets to go to the Warriors games.
I understand.
I don't want to see Pajemski in post.
I will say, who do you think is? There's times where you're feeling really down. Things just aren't going your way. And then you look over and you go, well, you know what? What am I complaining about? I ain't got it as bad as that guy. And I did have that moment of clarity last night. There I am watching Karis LeVert hit a game winner. 3 straight game winners in a row for the opposing team. And I have to sit there and talk about it for 30 minutes afterwards. And I'm walking out and I'm looking down at my phone and I see the visuals of Kyrie Irving being carried off the court. And it was one of those moments where I was like, you know what? If I was a Mavs fan, I would be looking at Chris Vernon going, bro, shut up.
Great point.
You think you got it bad? My favorite player, who I've got a shrine to in my game room, has been traded. The guy we traded for immediately got hurt. He didn't even last a couple of games. And now my hope is at least pinned to make the play in, get him back, be mega dangerous. And now I'm watching Kyrie
Which was on the
Irving
board. Which is on the board. It's not just that.
Of course.
Lively's out, Gafford's out, but it's on the board. There is a world.
With
look
their
like that
size.
now. There's a world with, you got PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, Derek Lively,
yes,
Kyrie. Like, that's
Daniel
a team
Gafford.
I do not want to play. Yeah, like, that is a huge, huge defensive team with an offense, which is Kyrie Irving making things happen. That is a recipe for success in the National Basketball Association.
Absolutely. And I think, especially with you having now this may sound crazy, but with the Warriors, I think, as I told you after they made the Butler deal, getting all the way up to 6, and they're very close right now. They get up to 6. I view Dallas as the most dangerous of those play-in teams. I do. Assuming health. And again, that's all we can assume. But if you had all of their guys, that's a team, especially in the Western Conference, just given that they bring to the table what the other teams do not, right? There is Jokic, but the rest of those teams, the size could hurt them. And they have size in spades.
Well, it reminds me of, and again, no one can replace LeBron. It reminds me of the bubble Lakers championship team, where they were just bigger than everybody else.
That's
big. That's the team that it reminds me of. Just like,
and it's like, you don't want to face them. Like, Davis could be a real problem for a lot of teams that are listed as playoff teams right now. And then as you see Kyrie getting carried off last night, I mean, it looks bad. It looks bad. And it's like, my God, really? Like, really? Like as if we haven't been kicked in the dick enough. You know? I ain't got it so bad is what I'm saying, Jacoby. When I look over there, I'm like, I would just be despondent. I mean, I wouldn't be able to take it.
Even before yesterday, there is a roadmap where, they do these updates every week, every couple of weeks on the injuries. There's a roadmap. You're like, we get Lively back. We get AD back with just like 2 weeks of runway before we're in the play-ins or a playoff or whatever we're in. Like, there's a roadmap to them being extremely competitive in the first round.
Well, and you've caught a break because the team that you like, it's like you don't even have to play that well because Phoenix has become an unmitigated disaster.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That was the team that you were worried about. Like, okay, we don't play well enough. Phoenix is going to be able to get that 10 spot because you're probably getting the 10 spot, right? You're 9 or 10. But if Phoenix is going to, I mean, evidently Mike Budenholzer is telling Devin Booker to shut up.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about that part, because when I read that highlight, again, we talked about NBA Centel last week. I was like, wait a second, let me corroborate this information, because it's one thing for the coach. I just never heard anything like this. Please pipe down is what the words were, so my voice can be heard. You're saying that to Devin Booker? Wait, it's one thing if you say that if you're 41-20, that's fine. You know what I mean? We can make little tweaks like that, but when the season is disastrous as this, and a lot of that burden is on you as the head coach, I don't see a world in which that's helpful. Because if you're Devin Booker, do you think Devin Booker went home, called his best friend on his phone on the way home after that conversation and said, you know what, Coach Bud is right. I'm not giving him space to lead the team in the way he needs to. I'm the one who's holding this team back by voicing my opinions too loudly. He's right. I need to change the way I behave.
Wait.
Do you think he said that? What do you think he really said to his best friend on the car ride on the way home?
Oh, you said it. I thought you meant when he called Chris Haynes.
Shout to Chris Haynes.
I thought that's what you meant.
He said one thing. He said,
"Isn't that who reported it?" I don't want to get that wrong. It is who reported it, right?
I didn't source it. Again, I thought it was NBA Centel. So I was just like, seriously, I really thought it was NBA Centel when that report came out, because it's so unfathomable that Coach Bud thinks telling Devin Booker to be quiet in huddles and to not voice his opinion to the team so much is going to turn this team around so they can lose in the play-in, the 9-10 play-in. It's insane. Devin Booker's just like, hey, Matt Ishbia, him or me. 3 words, him or me. One of us is going to be here next year.
Yeah, it was Chris Haynes. It says, it seems like the kind of situation where the team would want one of its leaders to step up and take charge. But according to a new report from Chris Haynes, Mike Budenholzer actually asked one of his stars to take a step back. And then it says, weeks ago, Budenholzer called a meeting with Devin Booker imploring he tone it down vocally, leaving the stars shocked. Yeah, so it was Chris Haynes that reported.
Tone it down vocally.
Just shut up, man. Like, seriously, shut up. Shut up.
That's what Coach Bud said. That's what Coach Bud said. That was the meeting. Shut up. But my thing is, like, think about the chessboard, right? And this isn't just about NBA basketball. This is about anybody in social or professional situations, right? When you do something like that, which is pretty drastic, which is going to have an impact on your relationship with your colleague or your friend or whatever, when you're asking them to be less vocal, right? You have to understand how they're going to take that. Because like I said, Devin Booker didn't reflect and meditate on it and say, you know what, Coach Bud is right. I should let him coach and I should be a player. That's not what he said. He walked out of the room and said, F that guy. I'm not working with him anymore. I'm either leaving this team or he's leaving this team.
And then it got leaked to the media. So that's how you know, right? That's a private conversation that became public. And why did it become public?
I don't think Coach Bud.
It's not because Mike Budenholzer wasn't public.
I don't think Coach Bud leaked that one to the media. I don't think Coach Bud was on the phone with Chris. I don't think so.
Right.
And that's just, I mean, it's just another sort of page in the disaster that is the Suns. But like, I was so shocked by that. I literally had to I was like, this can't be real. This cannot be real.
Well, I'll tell you this, right? He just called his last NBA game a few weeks ago, and I've talked to you many times about the impact that Hubie Brown had on me as a young reporter as I was covering all of his pre-games and post-games. So one of his standard things that he always talked about was the most important thing as a coach is to have your best players on your side. If you've got your best players on your side, the other guys will fall in line. Now, Hubie, at the time, he had all of these different standards of which he believed in that made a team go. One of which was he always played. Now, at that point, it's different. It's a different world now. At that point, it was there's 12 guys on a roster, right? He played a 10-man rotation. He had reasons for everything that he talked about. He said, I play a 10-man rotation because in that locker room, there's going to be 10 guys that know exactly what is expected of them. There's going to be 10 guys that know their role and what they are supposed to be doing every single night. And there's going to be 2 that are discontent with their plight. But the 10 drastically outweigh the 2, so the 2 end up falling in line. So you've got no malcontents, right? Because there's 10 guys that get in their car and drive to the arena, and they know what is expected of them every single night. They know when they're going to play. They know how many minutes they're going to get, right? And so he had this very standard. But in between, keeping a roster happy by defining roles and letting those guys know what their roles are. But the most important thing was, and then those best players, they've got to be on board with you. Because if your best players are on board with you, then the rest will also fall in line. And it's what I think about whenever I see a situation like this. Because rule number 1, that's how you get fired. That's how you don't get to keep your job. The only thing that matters is that Devin Booker is ready to go to war for you. That's it. Because he's the one that's going to be there, right? Evidently, he's the one they're keeping. All the talk is, and I know it's our next thing on the notes, is the Kevin Durant stuff. And that's, it showed up at the trade deadline, and now Shams reported on the Suns and Durant. Let me hear it.
He said, quote, "But this offseason, from my understanding, the Suns and Durant would work together on any potential trade to a contender in a trade scenario. I would expect 4 to 6 contending teams, some serious involved in Durant."
Oh, hold on real quick. Breaking news. Beep, 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 beep. Right in the middle of our show. It's a friggin' torn ACL for Kyrie.
Oh, God.
Shams just reported.
Oh, God.
Dallas Mavericks All-Star Kyrie Irving has suffered a season-ending torn ACL in his left knee.
ACL. I mean, that could have implications to next year, too. That's bad.
Of course it could. It's March. I mean, you're talking about, at best, 9 months? Probably.
Yeah.
And then you've got...
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
That is terrible.
Terrible.
You know what? Mavs fans.
Just terrible. I mean, I am so sorry, Mavs fans. Really.
Mavs fans, at least you have the Cowboy. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. God, this is tough.
Stop. Come
this
on.
Is tough.
I'm a Cowboys fan. I don't.
The Stars good.
That.
Yeah. This is awful for the Mavs.
Shams followed it up by saying devastating. Irving appeared in 50 of the Mavs' 62 games so far and is currently the only player in the NBA averaging at least 20 points, 40% from three, 90% from the free throw line. The 5th season in his career with those statistics, second most all time to Stephen Curry.
He was playing.
He was
so
having
well.
a great season.
He was playing so well. And again, like what we see is the 2.5 hours a couple times a week that they're on the court. But he's the captain of the team. He's the leader of the team. He's a veteran. And this has been a very tumultuous season for the Mavs before the Luka trade. I can only imagine what it feels like to be there after and during the Luka trade. And to lose him now, like outside of wins and losses, is just catastrophic. And
also, obviously, we talk about the way it impacts. We had just mentioned that is a significantly dangerous team in our estimation when they are fully loaded. And if over the course of the next month they were able to get fully loaded, we would view them as a danger for prospective play-in teams and then maybe even whoever they would face in a first round off the table now, right? So that does change whoever can be that 8th seed too, because I would have put them as a possible favorite to be the 8th seed.
Blazers.
The circumstances. Oh, the hot Blazers. Let's get back to the Suns. I mean, maybe it is daylight for this train wreck that is the Suns.
Oh, God.
Honestly, it is daylight for them because though they have been disgusting, it's like if you could just get to the play-in, at least you give yourself a chance to possibly be a playoff team. Not that and then just go get beat by 1,000 by the Thunder, I suppose.
But it's a neck and neck race right now between the Blazers and the Suns. And
and the best thing that could happen is like, hey, could we put a slowdown to all of the offseason and discontent news that's going on? Like they have a chance here in the last 20-something games, and yet every day it's some kind of ominous story about the Suns or a look to the offseason. Like everybody's already trading Kevin Durant. And it's
in that Shams statement, he said something like, if things don't go well to end the season. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what is the bar there? Like what does this going well look like for the Suns? They sweep the Thunder in round 1 after winning a couple play-in games. Like, I don't see that happening. I don't think there's a world in which they come out of this season feeling good about what they've got going on in Phoenix. And they want to run it back. I don't see that happening.
There's virtually no way they don't massively underachieve, no matter what happens the rest of the way, and no matter if the Mavs just crater.
I also think it's important when you speak into microphones about sports to recognize when you're wrong, because preseason, I was looking at this team like,
me too.
I mean,
thought they did a reasonable job building out a roster around it. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, well, they needed a point guard. They got a point guard. You've got Beal, Booker, and Durant. On any given night, those guys can get you 35. Like, they're going to outscore them. They might have some trouble. Nurkic, I didn't think Nurkic was going to play like this. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like preseason I had them as a contending team, a championship contending team. And
thought
now
the Tyus thing was a steal.
the Blazers. They're battling the Blazers for the right to win 2 playoff games to play the Thunder. That's where they are.
Well, I mean,
playing games.
You can't be more opposite vibe-wise than Portland and the Suns right now. Oh, my God. Like, one is like, what is happening? This is awesome. This is overachievement. And the other one is massive underachievement.
One is playing with house money. The other one is going to that weird cage in Las Vegas where they take your thumbprint and you have to like call on this like weird black phone because you've overdrawn your checking account, and they give you like $500 that they're going to take your pinky if you don't give it back. I only know this from experience in my 20s. It's happened to me a few times. And that's what I'm saying. Don't ever give your fingerprint to get money in a casino. It's never gone well for me. I don't think it's gone well for anybody ever. I think they take the fingerprints. They know which finger to take if they can't find you to pay the money back. Don't ever do that. I hope they don't use that technology anymore. God.
Speaking of underachievement, we've been talking about this the whole year, and I said earlier in the year, I said, look, pay attention if there's anybody that knows about tragic knee injuries, it's a guy that I covered in Memphis, and it's Chandler Parsons, and he's on that show with Michelle Beadle and Lou Williams. And earlier in the year, he talked about how they were just going to need to shut Joel Embiid down because it's just one of those things where it's like you can't play. You can't play. Like, we're bone on bone. It swells up every time. It's pain management, and you're not going to be able to be yourself. You're not going to be able to play. And he said that early in the year. Well, we finally got all the way to March, and the 76ers made their decision that they're just shutting him down for the rest of the time, which obviously makes you wonder about, the contract extension, which they're already attempting to throw Daryl Morey under the bus for that by saying the owner didn't really want to do it. But also just an organizational decision that they tried to, the season started with at post-Olympics, him coming into the season and them saying he's not going to play back-to-backs. And then there was that feeling like, hey, are they just going to like try to not get fined, sit him out a ton, play some possum, and then have him ready for the only thing that matters, which is the playoff run.
That
right?
felt like the plan.
Yeah, it felt like
Remember he said individual awards, like none of them championships are all that matter. Like we all heard all of the rhetoric, and I just want to say, like, hindsight's always 20/20.
But this one is
I'm just saying, like, Joel Embiid, if you have a healthy operational Joel Embiid, you've got a shot. You know what I mean?
Right, but I'm saying from the very beginning, it wasn't a healthy operational Joel Embiid, which makes you wonder, like, why did you waste all this time? Now you're going to be going into a surgery or whatever you're going to be doing, but you've waited until now to shut him down. Like, you could have just said at the beginning, and then you could at least have him for next year to run it back. But it felt like trying to force him out on the court this year when obviously the guy's leg was completely shot. Like, I mean, you saw it. I mean, God bless. We're lucky it wasn't like made of metal by the.
It was. I mean, you saw the brace. It was ridiculous. Right? And I just think back to that Christmas game against the Celtics. I can't get it out of my head. That is what they signed up for. That. And Paul George we're going to talk about Joel Embiid being the big disappointment. Paul George has been equally disappointing. This team has been so disappointed. We don't even have to discuss it that much. But right now they're not even trying to get in the plan or anything. It's ugh. Hey, y'all, let me tell you about one of my favorite bets that FanDuel has right now. They're called Player Performance Doubles. If you don't know about them, you got to check them out. They're these 2-leg parlays that are already made for you. They're super simple. What it is FanDuel takes an NBA player prop and then combines it with a bet on that player's team to win. If you've dabbled in FanDuel before, you know this is a common practice, something that I do pretty often. What I like to do is take a star player and combine them with that star player's team to win. They have a bunch of them for every game. You just have to pick one that you like. For example, we've discussed on this podcast, or we're going to get to, a little contest between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Thunder on Wednesday. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is coming off a 51-point explosion, and the Grizzlies will likely be without Jaren Jackson Jr., their Defensive Player of the Year candidate. So I'm going to pick Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over plus the Thunder to win easily. And that is a player performance double. And whether you want to ride with mine or make your own, FanDuel is giving all customers a profit boost exclusively for these bets on Tuesday. So just head to FanDuel.com/mismatch to get your profit boost. Make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Let's get to a new segment we call Help Me Out, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We are going to ask each other for help on a myriad of topics. You want me to start or you want to start?
You start, Verno.
Help me out. Why are there not greater penalties for losing challenges? Okay, so now I have been to a lot of basketball games in person. You were going to go to one tonight. I've been to a lot in person recently. Obviously, the nights that I'm not at games, I'm watching them on television. There is not a broadcaster and or a fan that is a regular observer of the NBA that does not absolutely hate the challenges. It draws out these games. It takes forever. They go back to Secaucus. We get to see the replay on television. We see, it was out on this guy almost immediately, yet it takes forever for the game to restart afterwards, right? I have in the past proposed there needs to be a 60-second clock. 60-second clock, a decision is made within 60 seconds. End of story. Okay? Watch the replay. Somebody makes a decision within 60 seconds, but now we have put some pressure on this to happen. It dawned on me last night as I was at the game. I was like, you know what? How about this? I'm just trying to fix this any way I can. So if I'm not going to win you over with the 60-second clock, how about this one? Greater penalties for losing challenges, right? I lose a challenge and now I don't get my next challenge, right? Okay, that's the grand penalty for losing the challenge. I say that we come up with penalties for everybody involved. The coach, the player, the ref, everybody. If it's wrong, now it's a free throw for the other team. So you want to dick around, you want to draw this game out, you want to take it forever, it's a free throw for the other team if you screw that up. You don't just lose your last challenge. It actually is going to cost you a point in this game. Players, if you do the twirly bird with your finger and your coach goes to the nerd with the iPad behind him who's trying to figure it out within 30 seconds, and then it gets challenged, and then you're wrong, that player gets fined. You get fined if you do the whirly bird.
By the team?
Yes. By the league. If you do the whirly bird and convince your coach to challenge and it's wrong, and you get assessed a foul. So you get a foul and fine. Yes, I'm done with this. I'm done with the whirly bird. I'm done with it. Now, that's the signal. The whirly bird.
Whirly bird. Yeah, we all know it. We all know the signal.
Refs, if it's challenged and you were wrong and the team has won the challenge, you have to wear a clown nose for the rest of the game. You have to put on, like that you get at Walgreens for when they sell them for that month. You have to put on the clown nose, and you have to wear the clown nose for the rest of the game. I want severe penalties for everyone involved in these because I am for the complete eradication of this madness. I can't take it anymore. So, if you would like to
let me help you out a little bit.
If you would like to help me out with this.
Okay, first of all, I don't know how much I can help because at first, like my brain and my emotions and our relationship went on a little journey during that rant. Because when you brought up the 60-second clock thing, I was like, brilliant. He's on to something. This makes perfect sense. I love it. But then when you went to the if you lose a challenge, the other team shoots a free throw. My head's going through certain scenarios where it's a 3-point game, and now it's a 4-point game. And then it's like you're kind of like the whole idea of the challenge at its core is there should be an opportunity for incorrect calls to be overturned. And I think we all sort of feel that way. that there should be an opportunity for incorrect calls to be overturned. However, as it's currently constructed, it is inefficient and ineffective, right? So you're saying, let's put the clock up. I love that idea. But when you started saying that the other team should shoot a free throw, I just went through my head, that can go really wrong really quickly. Like it could turn a 1-possession game into a 2-possession game with seconds left on the clock, essentially ending the game at a challenge instead of ending the game on the court, right?
Then don't challenge. That's what I'm trying to do.
And then, that one is ridiculous on its face. And then the whirly bird is, you can't fault a player.
Yes, you can.
For thinking that they did something right. We've all watched games where the guy does the whirly bird and then they show the replay and you're like, what are you even thinking? And also it's like, there's 5 minutes left in the first quarter. You know what I'm saying? And you're up by 10.
If you obviously fouled the guy, that's what I'm saying. If you obviously fouled the guy and did the whirly bird and cost us all there to sit there for 10 minutes, you have to be penalized for that. That cannot go unchecked.
I like the clock thing. I think the clock thing makes perfect sense. And not only that is, you got 60 seconds. One thing I hate is, it's obviously out on Derek Jones Jr., but now they're trying to figure out how much time was left. Like, that shouldn't take more than 10 seconds. It's like, oh, no. Well, they've made the call, but now they're trying to figure out how much time is left. The whole thing should be done within a minute. I'm with you there. You cannot punish the players for doing the whirly bird. The league can't do that, right?
Yes,
because then they'll stop doing the whirly bird and start screaming at the coach. That's you cannot punish that. It's insane. And the coaches themselves, what I do think they should have.
Okay, fine. You have to be at least a 5-time All-Star to do the whirly bird.
Fair. Not 5.
There's
All-Star. You have to have made an All-Star to do the whirly bird.
Yes, the only whirly birders have at least one All-Star appearance.
Yes. And when they do like the warm-up jackets in the All-Star game, they should have like the amount of All-Star games you've made, the amount of the awards you've won, and whether or not you're allowed to whirly bird. You know, it's like, and it'll be like, well, first-time whirly birder. Here we have. Look at that, Victor Wembanyama. Now he's allowed to whirly bird. That's fine.
He's allowed to.
Now he's allowed to. Look at that. You earned that stripe. What they do in the NFL is they keep track. The media keeps track of the coaches' challenge record, and it's not spoken about as much in the NBA. And that is something that I think we could do a little bit more. I'm sure like the broadcast partners will get pushed back from the league or whatever, and that's fine. Now, another player in this whole scenario that you mentioned, which I always feel secondhand stress and anxiety from, is the guy with the iPad, right? Because they got 20,000 people looking at him, and he's got to make the call, and you think it's hard to be the player to do the whirly bird? That's easy. You think it's hard to be the coach to turn around and be like, what should we do, Bob? And it's Bob sitting there being like, I don't know, it looks pretty close. You know what I mean? Like, Bob is like, it's like, this is a lot on me right now. What do you think? I got the iPad right in front of you. Bob is all stressed out. I always feel secondhand stress for Bob. But
there's got to be no better feeling, though, than watching the iPad and seeing it go off the other team and being like, challenge it. Because when your coach is going to be happy with you.
Yeah. And there's a self-satisfaction in your stomach after like the announcement goes in to overturn it. That must feel so good when you're Bob. But I don't want Bob's job because Bob has another assistant coach, right? And they go out for beers after the game. And Gary says to Bob, thank God I don't have that iPad. That's a lot. You know what I mean? I just have to work on the out of bounds plays on off days, but you got to be the iPad guy during the game. That's more stressful than being the coach. Then the clown nose on the referee is towing the line between like certifiably insane and also brilliant. Because what I immediately thought of is like an iconic moment. You know what I mean? Like a Michael Jordan push-off jump shot, and in the background there's a referee with putting both hands in the air when the ball goes through the net, and he's wearing a clown nose because in the first quarter one of his calls got overturned, and it's just burned into history forever. You know what I mean? But I can also see crowds really getting into it, like, wear the nose, wear the nose. And it has to be a ceremony. Like the mascot comes out with a nose on a pillow like it's an engagement ring.
And the guy's just in total shame.
Yeah. And he gets down on one knee and just presents it to him like
shame.
The clown nose I kind of like. You might get some pushback from the referees on that one, but I do love the clown nose. But I think it should be tracked. But here's what I'll help you out with. Okay. You should probably get some therapy. It's helped me a lot. It should probably help you. It's never going to happen. I love your clock idea, but one thing that I never want to get rid of is Bill Kennedy making announcements into the microphone. Here he is.
After reviewing the play, the offensive player has the ball and is not out of bounds. Phoenix will retain possession on the sideline and has the advanced capability. The coach's challenge is successful.
He makes the most of his moments.
The best. All right, so obviously the Grizzlies and Knicks game was the best one ever.
When Brunson,
And then he started laughing in the middle of it. He just broke character completely and started laughing. So obviously, I know so many of the people involved at these Grizzlies games, and that was right at the scorer's table.
Oh, you know what was said?
Yes.
Breaking news of the Mismatch.
So he's talking he's doing whatever his bit is. And then in the middle, I posted this. People could go back and find it on my Twitter feed if you didn't see Bill Kennedy break
Which has been
character.
deactivated, by the way.
Yeah, right. Well, you've got until Wednesday. Yeah. And so he breaks character and just starts laughing in the middle of it. So evidently, a guy stood up on the front row while he was staring into the camera and doing it and was talking, and a guy in the middle of it goes, "Spit it out, Bill!" and Kennedy just loses it and breaks character completely. He can't finish the review. He can't finish the review.
What happens is, because if you're someone like me who doesn't have doesn't know the guy in the front row of the game, it seemed like Jalen Brunson said something that made him laugh.
No,
I love
some guy in the crowd said, "Spit it out, Bill," and he
milks it. He uses those pregnant pauses. Like he'll pause just to get reaction. It's like someone once told me Dr. Dre is such a good beat maker because he uses space, negative space when he makes beats. That's how Bill Kennedy does announcements. Sentence by sentence, full second in between thoughts, and he milks it. But I don't think the clown nose thing is going to work, but I think it would really work well. Maybe we can get it integrated into Summer League or something. Maybe that.
It's unbelievable. And I love Bill Kennedy, by the way.
Oh, he's the best. He's the absolute best. I like him when refs have personality. Okay. We'll pick up the pace here. Help me out. Why is it, despite plenty of statistical and eyeball evidence to the contrary, that every day, more and more, I feel like the Lakers are going to the finals? Help me out.
Oh, God. Look at you.
Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way?
Because that's all you ever see every time you turn on the TV is people talking about how awesome the Lakers are.
Fair.
Here, I'm helping you out. Why do you feel this way? It's because there's one team and then there's 29 others. And I know Laker exceptionalism, the whole thing. But especially after post Luka, you have an awareness of what they do now in a way that you do not have an awareness of 29 other teams. You wouldn't even have to pay attention to sports, really, and you would know what happened with the Laker game last night. And so I think it is because you are inundated with Lakers content constantly that you feel that way. Meanwhile, they've been absolutely awesome, and they've been great for a month and a half.
It's the defense. And it's also what LeBron is doing, and I would just push back against that. You'll never believe this, but I don't consume a lot of ESPN that much anymore. Not my favorite channel at the moment. So I'm not inundated with Lakers information, but we all have League Pass, right? And long story short, I've got this TV that I can't get League Pass on, so I need a Roku. So when I go to the screen, it takes me 4 clicks to get to League Pass, and I see the list of games that are currently active. If the Lakers are active, I'm clicking on that one. I just am. I'm clicking that one. They could be
Well,
ahead, they
also
could be behind. I want to see Luka and LeBron. That's the best show right now. That's the
Okay.
best show in basketball.
Here's the other thing. I also don't need to help you out on this. By the way, Finney-Smith has been unbelievable for them.
They added Finney-Smith. They added
transformative.
Vanderbilt. They've added a LeBron James who's completely different since the Luka trade. Not since Luka's been playing. Since Luka was on the bench in street clothes, LeBron James is just a whole new person. And Gabe Vincent.
Also, can't deny, they got rid of D'Angelo Russell too. Which was addition by subtraction. And so they've made some really wise moves. And when you say, why do I keep feeling this way? A, you have an awareness of it. B, they've been awesome. And C, and most importantly, it's because most recently, the biggest game that they played was a Denver game where we saw them wear Denver out. After they had not been able to beat Denver forever, that had been their Achilles heel was the Denver Nuggets. So you saw them beat them. And the team that is at the very top of the conference still has to prove it can win multiple playoff series, right? Whereas
your dumbass voice echoes in my head about veteran teams winning the playoffs and blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at Luka LeBron. I'm like, I've seen each of you carry your team to not playoff wins, playoff series wins. And now there's two of you with decent role players.
So if you had a belief in them, it would not be crazy. I mean, they're already up to second in the conference. And if you have any cause for pause with the number one team, which you may, but you also think this team has been playing great, and we saw them play against Denver recently. And so, of course, that's going to be the last thing in our mind. And that's one of the other teams that you would have to get past in order to achieve, the highest level. And honestly, look, at the beginning of the season, I had Dallas as my finals pick out of the West because I thought it was the natural next step, right? They added Clay, and then the Lively's getting another year under his belt. But that was because they have Luka. If you've got Luka, you have a chance every year. I'm not trying to rub this in today, Dallas. I know. I got it. It's terrible, and I feel terrible. I feel bad saying that because I know some Dallas guy is just like, as soon as I say it, but it is what it is. All right, next one. Help me out. Why aren't you more grateful that the Knicks are good after being crap for so long? I just don't get this at all. You got one playoff series win in the last decade plus, which was last year. That was one of the first ones since 2013. Okay. And the last Eastern Conference Finals appearance was 24 years ago. 24 years ago. So why can you not just be thrilled with the fact that the Knicks are one of the best teams in the NBA?
I will recognize on a macro level, right? A big picture, everything is better nationally and in the city when the Knicks are good, right? The league is better when the Knicks are good. Madison Square Garden lit up, and the city, there's a vibrancy to the city now that the Knicks are good. And there's more Knicks hats, there's more Knicks discussions. I was sitting at a bar on Friday over the weekend, and it's just there's a Knicks conversation happening to my left, a Knicks conversation happening to my right. It's exciting. It's good. There were some dark days. The Jeff Hornacek era was tough. The Derek Fisher era was tough. After Memphis, we got Fizdale. That was tough.
That's known as the Alonzo Trier era.
That was tough. And those were three tough eras. And since Tibbs has been there, they have been a team that's fun to watch, a team with an identity, and a team that plays hard. So that's the part where I'm recognizing you have a point. The reason I'm upset is, I've always said this is a Jacoby thing that you'll hear me say over and over and over again. Happiness is a function of realistic expectations. And what's happened this season, after last season, they exceeded expectations. I think they would have beat the Pacers if they had anybody in that series at the end. And it was so fun. And they had this toughness, this identity. They played defense. They felt like lunch pail guys, right? And then we're going to improve upon that. We're going to bring in Cat. We're going to bring in Bridges. We're like, I don't know if Cat's a Knick. He doesn't feel like it. Bridges have 5 first-round picks. Great. They're not great picks. So, like, you know, you can say 5 first-round picks. But it felt like this was the championship run. This team is built to compete against the Celtics. This team is built to win the Eastern Conference Finals. And so far this season, it's been wonderful to watch Cat be integrated. And Bridges has had flashes, like when he defended Ja on Friday night. Sorry to bring it up again. But I just don't see this team beating the Cavs or the Celtics in a 7-game series. And it's been chronicled that they have not just lost to the Cavs, the Thunder, and the Celtics. They've been blown out by those teams. And teams above 500, which isn't that high of a line, right? Teams that have a winning record, they're 12-14 against. Teams that have a losing record, they're 28-6. Now, that's not that drastically off the sort of norm in the league, but it just makes me feel like this team that got blown out by the Cavs and Celtics, and then were up big on the Sixers recently, let them back in the game and got a win. It took a last-second Memphis miracle on Friday and then go overtime against the Heat. Sorry if I'm not like head over heels about this team. They lost to the good teams and they barely squeaked past the mediocre and bad teams over the last 5 games. I just don't feel great about this team. I don't feel great about their defense. And without sort of like Jalen Brunson standing on his head in the fourth quarter and overtime of games, they would have a much worse record. And that is why I'm just like I can't get jazzed up about a championship run. I can't. I don't see it. I don't see them getting past the second round.
Isn't it awesome to just have an awesome team that's going to be playing playoff basketball?
That was last year. That was last year. That was last year. It was awesome last year. And when you bring in Bridges and Cat, the expectations go higher. What it takes to satisfy
And you liked last year's team more.
Yes. And it was because they felt like it just felt like they were a team that came together with an identity and a philosophy and embodied the city. You know
Lunch
what I mean?
pail. Lunch.
Yes. And they overachieved. It's always fun to watch your team overachieve than to wonder what's wrong. And if they face the Pacers, the Bucks, or the Pistons in the first round, which they likely will, I would expect them to win that series. Okay. But I also expect it not to be easy against all 3 of those teams. That's why I'm not so happy about the Knicks right now. Sorry, Knicks fans.
What you got?
Okay. I really need your help on this. We spoke at length, not just today, but basically all season long, about the disaster that is the Phoenix Suns. So this is more of a psychological breakdown I need from you. Why is it that I put zero blame on their best player, Kevin Durant, for the disaster that is the Suns? Why is it that I give him an emotional pass for this entire debacle? I put none of it on him. Why is that?
Because you've had 15 years of understanding what he is, that he is a great individual player, maybe the greatest forward scorer we have ever seen. In fact, the greatest scoring forward in the history of the NBA, but he has never been confused with a leader on any team he has been on. He has never been confused as the leader of the team or the heart and soul of the team. And so the reason that you look at it now is because you've got over 15 years of evidence to suggest that that's not who that is. That's not who that guy is. So you're expecting a completely different version of a human that we have witnessed for 15 years. Guys, sometimes there are people that are born leaders, and that's not what he is.
20-second timeout. Fine. That's the off the court stuff. That's the sort of like the non-counting stats, non-box score stuff, whatever. But just as a basketball player, shouldn't he be able to carry them to more wins single-handedly? Shouldn't he just have some takeover games that win them 5 or 6 games thus far in the season?
Not at this age.
He's Kevin Durant.
LeBron
is doing it.
Steph's
doing it.
I got you. He also played for the friggin' Sonics, Jacoby.
Well, Steph and LeBron are just as old.
I got it. Have they had Achilles injuries as well? I mean, look, we know what he is. And at this point, he is not the guy that you can build out a championship roster around. He's not the guy anymore. He is a great individual scorer, right? I mean, it's the reason you don't is because you have an understanding of what he is.
I feel like
that's why you're not sitting around going, why aren't they, you know what I'm saying? Why isn't he carrying them to something? Because you've never expected him to be the guy that carried anybody to anything.
I guess. But
you expected him to be individually a great scorer.
I blame Bradley Beal. I blame Nurkic. I blame Matt Ishbia. I don't blame Kevin Durant for some reason, yet he's their best player, and he's playing fine, and he's doing his thing.
Virtually no great player ever gets blamed. We make excuses for all of them, despite what LeBron James has to say. Nothing has ever been LeBron James' fault, and everything has been LeBron James' credit. End of story.
Fair.
No one has ever said they lose because of LeBron or they lost because of LeBron. They say they lost because of this coach or that coach or this player or that player, right? Everybody else is always to blame. The great player is never to blame.
Yeah, and I've said famously on your local show that like Anthony Edwards didn't have a great series into that season last year,
right?
Into that series, but like
how much did you hear about it? How much did you hear about it?
Never hear about it.
No, so that's just the culture of the NBA. Very rarely is the best player the one that gets it. You know, in the end, they say they can't win the big one, or they, you know, we talk about their accomplishments in the end, but very rarely do we look at a team and say the problem is them. We say the problem is all the stuff around them. And many times we are justified in that. To wit, there were those that said, like, Curry he's not the same Curry as always. Well, you added Jimmy Butler, and guess what? Kind of looks like old Steph Curry to me, huh? So what was it? Was it Steph Curry, or was it what was around him?
Let me push back.
Okay.
James Harden gets the singular blame for all of the failures in Houston.
Well, that's right? Because he threw up all over himself when it mattered most.
Okay, but you know, that's a superstar getting the blame. I would say even Luka Doncic to a certain degree gets all of the blame for the shortcomings in the playoffs for the Mavericks. So it's not just superstars. I think it's more like unique to Durant. I think it's more unique to Durant, honestly.
That might be fair. Help me out.
Mm-hmm.
I just had this exact thing happen to me Saturday night at the Grizzly game. So, as you know, I got into, when I was in, well, you may not know, but when I was in college, I went and interned for a AA baseball team one summer because I wanted to get a job in sports. I hated it. And then the next summer, I got an internship at a sports radio station in St. Louis, and I worked there over the summer, and I loved it. I thought, this is a dream. This is what I want to do. I want to do this. And that's when I decided, and that was one of the summers when I was in college. And then I went back to college, and I decided that's the kind of thing I want to do. I got to figure out a way to get there. And obviously I had internships or whatever way back when. Then I worked at the radio station as a producer and worked my way up. And that was kind of my that was my intro into getting the job that I had dreamed of, the job that I had wanted. So a mom of a kid came up to me at the game on Saturday night, and she said, my son is in college right now, and he really wants a job in sports. What should he do? And I'm always at a bit, and I get this question weekly, honestly, weekly.
Yeah.
And it's flattering because it means, there's people that they see what you're doing and they want to be able to do it. And I've always been intensely grateful of the position that I've been given. But in terms of a roadmap to do it, I feel like things and technology have changed so dramatically since I did it that I find it difficult because I can't just say, do what I did, right? I tell them, here's what I did, but I don't know if I should say, like, hey, try to go get an internship at a sports radio station. Sports radio stations are dying all over, right? Like the world is now on the internet, and I'm doing podcasts now and whatever else. And so help me out. What should I have told that mom when she said, my son is in college. He wants to get in. He wants a job in sports. He wants to be a podcaster, a sports commentator, whatever else. What should he do?
Okay. See, I get this a lot too, and I give very similar answers. But there's sort of two categories. People want a job in sports, but when they're talking to you and I, when I was a producer at ESPN stacking the A block for Sports Nation, I didn't have a lot of people coming up to me saying, what should I do to get a job in sports? Because I would say, oh, be an intern, go to the PA program, whatever. I think a lot of the time people want a on-camera, opinionating, speaking into microphones role, right? And the first thing I say, regardless to young people, is be humble. If you can, work for free and be an intern. Work for free. If you can. I understand that not everyone has that option, because that is when you can get your foot in the door in a low stakes environment. Is they will let you work for free and work hard, and you have to humble yourself. You will be getting coffees. You will be bringing dry cleaning and getting dry cleaning. You will be sweeping floors. You'll be taking out trash. You'll be doing all of the dirty work, and just observe and work hard. And one of the things that I loved from a gentleman who didn't work that hard for the Pistons, but while the Phoenix Suns were in the finals, they played a clip from the locker room before Game 6. And he said to Monty Williams is who I'm talking about. He said to the Phoenix Suns, this quote, stick with me forever. And this is something that I tell a lot of people in my life, and something I say to young people when they ask me this question. Everything you want is on the other side of hard work. And that's what he said to the Suns. And that is applicable to all walks of life. And that's something that I say, sort of be humble, work for free, observe, build relationships, and everything you want is on the other side of hard work, right? That's mainly what I say. However, people clearly want to be sort of what we call like talent, or speaking to microphones, or be on camera, whatever that case may be. In that regard, what I tell them is have a routine and make content daily. And even if it's for no one, just do it daily for yourself. And it'll feel like it's worthless, but it'll help you, because you will be bad. You'll be bad. You know what I mean? It's like, imagine taking like a 7-footer that's never touched a basketball. They're not going to be good on day one. So you're going to be bad, but be bad behind closed doors, and make sure you stick to a routine. So you're consistent about it. You can't just do it once and pretend you're going to be good. Reps will make you better. Reps will make you better. And then when you feel like you're getting okay at it, you've done it for a few months, then you start a YouTube channel. You're going to get 4 views, 5 views, but now the barrier of entry to be quote unquote on camera isn't like it was when we were 22 or 23 years old. There's only like 70 jobs in the whole country. Now you can have a job tomorrow making content about sports on YouTube by yourself. So my thing is, be humble, work hard. Everything you want is on the other side of work. Observe, do the dirty work. And also, if you want to make content, make content. There's no barriers of entry anymore. You can make content on your phone. Learn how to edit. Do that. You want to be a content creator? Create content. It's that simple. You can do that now. The technology is such now that you can actually do it tomorrow. So don't ask me about it. Go do a show for yourself tomorrow in your basement. There's your help.
What's your last one? I'm just going to keep that recorded and play that for the next mom that I ask.
That's a little long.
Thank
I
you.
want to edit
Thank
it down.
you.
Yeah, edit it down
Thank
a little
you.
bit.
Okay.
This will be short. Help me out.
Okay.
Why do I not give a crap about the Oscars whatsoever? At all.
Because you didn't see any.
All.
Because you didn't see any of the movies.
I've never heard of these movies. My wife is like, Honora, it's about a prostitute. I'm like, okay, now I'm in. You should have told me that before. You should have told me that before.
I thought it was a stripper. She's actually a
stripper, whatever. I don't know. That's what my wife said. I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the trailer. I don't even know what it's about. The Brutalist. No idea what that's about. No idea what that's about. I don't know what any of these movies are. I haven't seen. I'm sorry. I want to apologize to Sean Fennessy. I love you very much.
Well, that's why you asked me to help you out. Like, that's why you don't care.
But in the past, I haven't cared. I used to care about these things. I felt like there were bigger movies being celebrated, movies that I had seen. Like, if you were to say to me, what should win Best Picture? I'd be like, Wicked. I'd be like, everybody loves it. Everybody loves it. It's too long, but everybody loves the movie. Go watch that movie and tell me it's bad. It's not. It's good. Why is that not Best Picture?
I'm watching sports all the time, and so I very rarely, like, honestly, I think you and I had this discussion when you went to go see Nosferatu or whatever. I can't remember the last adult movie that I went to the theater. I think the last time I was at the theater, I saw Inside Out 2, which I loved, by the way.
I see every kids movie that comes out. I see every single kids movie that comes out.
So I only see kids movies as well when I go to the theaters. But I loved Inside Out 2. Why didn't that win?
And honestly, it was bad. I loved Inside Out 1. When Big Bang died, I died a little bit myself.
When I asked people about Anora and whatever, everybody loves it, right? I was like,
Dune? Did you try to watch Dune?
And then they explain it to you, right? And you're like, well, wait, like, so I see you said it's prostitute. I was like, a guy falls in love with a stripper? Like, that's like the tale as old as time. Like,
yeah, there's a song about that. What
guy
T-Pain.
Every single guy that's ever been to a strip club thinks that the stripper likes them.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah, that's the whole experience. There's the complete experience. I just don't care about the Oscars. What I used to care. It used to be a thing. I would sit down and watch the Oscars. And now
because you also used to see all the movies, but that's just that's our age thing. That's having kids. Once you have kids, again, I saw the kids movies this year. You want to have a kids movies discussion? I can have a kids movies discussion.
I've seen
but adult movies,
one.
I don't get. Huh?
I've seen every kids movie. Wild Robot.
Yeah.
Killer film. Wild Robot.
Yeah,
check that one out.
I see all the kids movies, but I don't see any. Very rarely do I see the adult movies. I'll go out of my way to watch some of them, though.
There is no award show that I used to care about, that I care less about now. There's no bigger gap than the VMAs. When we were kids, like when we were 17,
yes.
the
VMAs
meant
something.
Were everything.
The Moon Man meant something. It meant
everything. Everything. The VMAs were like night where it was like I was excited 3 days, but it was like the Super Bowl. It was like the pop culture Super Bowl. And now the VMAs, like I was watching a trailer for the VMAs. They ran through the list of performers, and I was like, is this like Chat GBT just spitting out nouns? I've never even heard of any of these people. Any of them. I think we're just old. All right, well, I appreciate your help, buddy.
Before we get out of here, here is the aforementioned Bill Kennedy at the Grizzlies Knicks game. I gave you the behind the scenes. What you cannot hear is the fan that evidently was in the front row yelling, "Spit it out, Bill." But you will know when that moment takes place, when you hear Bill Kennedy trying to read off the challenge at the Grizzlies Knicks on Friday night.
The out-of-bounds call has been overturned. There is an approximate foul charged to Hart, resulting in Memphis retaining the ball. And
Jalen Brunson, get out of the way.
And going the full length of the court. The coach's challenge is successful.
See, Jalen Brunson gets too much credit for that. Shout out to the guy in the front row. And I also do remember that was kind of some BS, if I remember correctly. I didn't like that call.
Thank you to our executive producer, Jesse Lopez, as always. And Jacoby, I'll talk to you later this week.
Must be 21 and over and present in select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and over and present in D.C. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.